otherwise known as America's Mayor. He's a friend of ours, a friend of my family and parents.
Turn it up.
It's on. It is wonderful for Nick to have the mayor here to introduce him at this beautiful home. Mr. and Mrs. DeVos, thank you for opening your home to all of us. It is particularly special for me to be here tonight because of my friendship with Nick. I don't know where Nick is. Right behind me. Nick's and our families go back a long time. Nick's and my family were friends back in Cuba in the 1950s. Our grandfathers were great pals, and a lot of people don't know, but Nick's family was also in the sugar business in Cuba, and we shared really that common bond now for 3 generations. I lived in New York at the time of Rudy Giuliani being mayor of the city. Unfortunately, during the years before he was the mayor, the quality of life in New York City had deteriorated dramatically. The streets were overrun by crime, the schools were not functioning, the law enforcement was not on the case, and generally the city had not been a very pleasant place to live or to do business or even be. Rudy Giuliani turned the city around, and when he finished his years as mayor, the city was once again the most wonderful place in the world to live. I'll say not being a part-time New Yorker, loving New York. As we all know, Rudy Giuliani demonstrated tremendous leadership at one of the most difficult times our nation has ever seen. When America and New York was terrorized, our mayor stepped in and he acted with courage, leadership, and the resolve of some of America's greatest heroes. Mayor Giuliani instilled confidence, not scare tactics. The mayor delivered positive results, not excuses. And he even enjoyed very public places like the ballparks of Yankee Stadium, where I was days after the attacks. It is with great pleasure that I introduce to you America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you very much, and thank you to the DeVosses for hosting it, and thank you all very much for coming and supporting a great candidate. Nick is a terrific guy. I'm going to talk about him in a moment. I want to thank all of you for supporting me. Many of you did, and I thank you, and I apologize for the result. We'll see. I want to congratulate my good friend Bill Diamond on getting elected, something I failed to do. And I want to thank Nick for running for office. It's a hard thing to do to run for office. This is exactly what we need. We need people like Nick who are willing to get involved in politics, willing to run, willing to be really great candidates, and give us real hope for the future. And when you look at the situation that we're in Florida, the United States, boy, we need some hope, don't we? I mean, we need a very different kind of an approach, and the approach that's kind of taken over, at least the way we do business in Washington, and certainly in my state, in the Northeast. I don't know what you're doing here in Florida, but in the Northeast what they're doing is raising taxes to amazing extents. New York, I think, is a 9 or 10% increase in taxes, and New Jersey may be exactly the same. So you may be getting a lot of people moving down here. We need people in politics who understand that government is supposed to be disciplined, that government is supposed to be well organized, efficient, effective, able to accomplish what it's supposed to do, but accomplish as little as possible so that most of what happens in America gets done in the private sector. That's the secret of our greatness. That's how we became a great country. That's how we became a great economy. We didn't become a great country because we necessarily had our ideas generate from the government. Almost all the great ideas that developed America into the most powerful country in the world, the most powerful economy in the world, the country that's moved more people out of poverty than just about the whole rest of the world combined. The ideas that did that did not come from government. They came from people. They came from the 2 grandfathers that you just talked about, and their initiative and ability to develop things, and other grandfathers and grandmothers and people who developed businesses, who developed ideas, who developed processes, the internet revolution was not invented by the government, unless you believe Al Gore. The idea that we fly in the air and we go to space was not invented by the government. The government has not done a very good job of finding cures for diseases. That's all done in the private sector. I could go on and on and on. But all of the great things about us come from the private sector. And either the government has hindered those efforts or it's helped those efforts. But the government is a secondary participant in all of this. We've got a theory in Washington now where the government is the main participant. The government is going to drive the engine. The government is going to direct what's being done. The government is going to tell companies who the CEO should be, and it's going to tell banks whether they're healthy or not. And that's a different concept of government than the thing that made us great. That's a concept of government that has prevailed in much of Europe. And it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked to have a creative, intuitive, great society like we've had. Somebody like Nick understands that. He understands it from his background. He understands it from being in business himself. He understands it from his studies. He understands it from the philosophy that he has, that we have to keep taxes low, that we have to keep government under control, that, gosh, we can lose our liberties if government becomes too powerful, something that worried Ronald Reagan very, very much. So we need people in politics like Nick who understand that we have to have a disciplined government, and that when you go to a state capital, whether it's in Florida or New York or someplace else, you've got to be advocating for keeping things under control. And we need someone in government who understands public safety and how important it is. Nick himself has worked in law enforcement as a reserve. He understands how important safety is. As we move further and further away from the things that we were doing in the 90s, I get really concerned that crime is going to increase and go up. We're going to need someone who understands that and understands how to support the things that are necessary to keep crime under control. And finally, we need to revitalize the Republican Party. If you're not a Republican, but you're just an American, and you're either a Democrat or an independent, you should be interested in revitalizing the Republican Party. Because this country is always in trouble when we have one party. Our greatness is competition, competition of ideas, challenge. So how do you revive a political party? There are all kinds of theories. Should the Republican Party go to the right? Should it go to the middle? Should it do this? Should it do that? You know how you revive the Republican Party? Exactly right. With candidates. You do it with candidates. The Democrats didn't win the election last year because they had better ideas. Unfortunately, and I include me in this and my friend John McCain, the Democrats had a better candidate. They didn't have better, we had better ideas and they had a better candidate. And a better candidate needs better ideas. And sometimes that's not true, but almost always it is. So that's why Nick doing this is so important. This is somebody that I'm glad that he wants to be in politics. He helped me tremendously when I ran for president. He was one of the most energetic, one of the most effective people that worked on my campaign. I became very impressed with him. I think he's going to be a real star in a party that needs a lot of new talent. You know, it's like a baseball team. You need to bring along good people to keep your team young, to keep your team energetic, and to keep your team growing. And Nick is one of the really bright stars. So I thank you for supporting him. Try to get him more money. It's only $500 per person. I know even in this day and age, that may be a bit of a burden, but it really isn't all that bad. And we're going to need stories like that over this year and next year. I'm working very hard to see if we can elect a Republican governor of New Jersey. And
New York.
I might work very hard on that a year from now. But people forget that in 1992 we elected Bill Clinton, and then in 1993 Dick Reardon was elected mayor of Los Angeles, a Republican. I was elected mayor of New York, a Republican. Christie Whitman was elected governor of New Jersey, a Republican, and George Allen was elected governor of Virginia, a Republican. We had 4 major Republican victories right in the wake of Bill Clinton. And Newt Gingrich would tell you that really set the trend that then led to taking over Congress in 1994. Because that's how you change momentum. You change momentum by winning, and by winning some races. So let's hope we can win our share of those races this year. We've got a really good chance in New Jersey. We've got a really good chance in Virginia. In New York, Mike Bloomberg is running, and that sort of takes it off the chart of a partisan election. But at least a Democrat will get elected there. So we have a chance to really rebuild this. Nick is an important part of that, and your support of him is critical. Nick, I thank you very, very much for running. I thank your wife for allowing you to do it and supporting you. And I wish you the best, and I hope that I can help you a lot more than just this. You can certainly count on me. God bless you.
I can't, I'm at a loss for words. I am so humbled today. I guess I should start with this. A friend of mine saw a copy of the invitation and saw the supporters of mine and said, this is not fair, it's like cheating. So, and I look around the room today, and all of you here are leaders throughout your community, and I'm so overwhelmed that you would come out and support me, especially so early in this campaign. And I am so humbled to have Mayor Giuliani come and support me here in Florida. And I want to thank him for being here, and hopefully he'll run for governor. I want to thank my chairs of the event, Pepe, thank you so much for helping me, and Joe, thank you so much for helping me, and Bill, thanks for helping arrange and manage all of this for me. But most importantly, like the mayor said, I want to thank my wife for allowing me to run. Without her support, I couldn't be here. The time and the hours that I put in, and her putting up with that, has been great. So thank you, honey. A lot of you here know me, but a lot of you here don't. For those who don't, I'm going to briefly tell you a little bit about myself. I'm originally from a small town in Westchester, New York, called Purchase. I ended up going to Tulane University, majoring in business, and nearly 6 years ago moved to Delray Beach. I ended up buying a home, getting married, and settling down. My wife and I felt that this was going to be a great place to raise a family, and we love it here. And about a year and a half ago, I started my own small business as an environmental consulting firm, and we help other businesses and companies reduce their waste, water, and energy. We've grown now to about 10 people, and I feel like I'm living the American dream. But like a lot of you, I too am now feeling the pinch of the economy. A lot of us have friends and family members out there who have lost jobs. All of our investments today are in half. Our homes are worth less than what we paid for them. Some of us pay 3 to 4 times as much in taxes as our neighbors. We are all worried that another hurricane is going to hit us, devastate our community, and bankrupt our state. And worse, for those of you who still read the newspaper today, notice that almost every single week we've been having shootings in South Florida. The convenience store owner, whose family I have known for several years, was just shot in broad daylight, 3 blocks from my house, 10 minutes down the road. And now I'm seeing people leaving Florida and abandoning this beautiful place. But we love it here. And we're not one to turn and run. And we're not going to point fingers, and we're not going to blame. We are going to stay here, and we're going to fight for a community which we have grown to love so much. When I first moved to Delray Beach, I fell in love with this community so much that I jumped headfirst into this community, getting involved in organizations like the Delray Beach Rotary Club, which I go to every Tuesdays at Ellie's Diner down the street, the Broward County Crime Commission, which I got involved with because of my love of law enforcement. I used to be a reserve police officer in California. And Step Up for Students because of my love of education, and because I think that all students deserve the best education possible. It's how I got to meet Mr. DeVos, and why I'm here today. But, you know, with the little that I've done, you know, I feel right now that I can do more. And I know that if we all work together, we can do more. We can work harder to keep South Florida safe and our community is a great place to live because we live in a land of opportunity, a place where many of us have come seeking better, fuller, richer, and happier lives. Building a life worth living and starting a family is hard work. But it's great work. And it depends on the men and women who play by the rules. Start families, build businesses, pay their taxes. But now our state and our country face serious problems. Not from the people here, we know how things work, but for the simple reason and principle. Because the government has lost its purpose. And let me tell you a little bit about what I believe that purpose to be. The government should be focused on protecting our liberties and our freedoms and letting us seek happiness in our own ways. I believe in free markets, in capitalism, and personal responsibility. Now I know that the government is not the enemy, and our Florida State Constitution says that well. Its preamble reads, "We, the people of the state of Florida, being grateful to Almighty God for our constitutional liberty, in order to perfect our government, maintain public order, ensure domestic security, and guarantee equal civil political rights to all." Now, aren't those words simple, direct, and true? These are fundamental truths that many in government today have forgotten, and that's what I believe in. That's common sense, and that's what I'm going to bring to Tallahassee. Do you think people today who have lost their jobs or lost their homes, do you think they care if you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent? I don't think so. More than ever have we come to a time where we need to get together, come up together with real solutions to real problems that are affecting everybody today. Because more than anything, we do need change. But this time, we need the right change. Not only are we Floridians, we are Americans. We are the most courageous and resilient people on this earth. And I don't doubt, with hard work and courage, that we won't get out of this. We're Americans. With hard work and courage, we can survive anything. As Winston Churchill used to say, courage was going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. The question we must all ask ourselves today is, what kind of state do we want to be when we do? Ladies and gentlemen, we face a stark choice. Do we want to be a state that starts to increase taxes and increase spending, or do we want to be a state that promotes freedom? Help the most vulnerable help themselves, and let free men and women chart their own course. We live in a country and in a state where we have the ability to pick and choose whatever state we want to live in. If we're not happy with the way one state is, we can go and pick another. But I believe in the state of Florida. But its freedom depends on the liberties that our government is supposed to protect. That's what I believe in. Our government needs to get back to its core principles and its core values. Teddy Roosevelt. If an American is to amount to anything, he must rely upon himself and not the state. He must take pride in his own work and not sit idle and envy the luck of others. He must face life with resolute courage, win victory if he can, and accept defeat if he must. And not place on his fellow man a responsibility which is not theirs. Fred, imagine if I cold called you one day and said, I would like $1,000 for my charity. And you said no. And I said, well, I didn't really like that answer. So I went to your bank, got access to your bank account, and took that money anyway. How would you feel?
That's where it went.
You wouldn't be very happy. If that's not okay for me to do, why is it okay for the government to do the exact same thing? The government has become a conduit to redistribute your hard-earned money, and this needs to stop. And this needs to stop now. Why, in a time of economic turmoil, when companies are letting people go. Downsizing and reducing is the government growing by leaps and bounds and expanding to growth we've never seen before. The government should be focused on incentivizing us, incentivizing businesses, and not incentivizing itself. Very few times in our life will we come to a crossroads where we have the ability to make magnificent changes, and I believe that this is one of these times. We cannot tax our way to prosperity, and we can definitely not spend our way to prosperity. We need to come up with big ideas and big changes. What do we got to lose? We can start here locally in Florida. First, by tackling property taxes. We need to change our property taxes to make sure it is fair and equitable to get people to start investing in Florida and people to buy homes. We need to change our property insurance system to make sure that we're all protected and let free markets work for us. We need to change the way utilities operate. Folks, capitalism still works. It's not okay. We have a utility company that wants to continually increase our rates with no competition. But we won't be able to do anything if we don't feel secure. We need to properly fund our criminal justice system. We need to start going after criminals, repeat violent offenders, and put them away in jail for life. And take away the liberal attorneys and prosecutors' objective sentencing procedures. But more than anything, and last but not least, is education. We need to make sure that our children, and I mean all of our children and not just the privileged few, have access to the best education that is out there today, because the children of Florida are the future of America and the future of our state. We need to make sure that we're getting better teachers down here with better degrees. We got to compete with the best and the brightest Wall Street firms. We're offering bonuses to kids coming out of college. We got to be offering teachers who've got master's degrees and PhDs to be coming in here and teaching our kids. We need to make sure that our schools are competitive so our kids have the ability to pick and choose whatever school is best suited to their needs. Now I know we've got a long road to go, and it's going to be a tough road, but I have faith. I really do. I have faith in the people of Florida, and I know if we all come together, as my grandfather used to say, have a reputation for fair and honest dealing, we can get through these hard times. My name is Nick Loeb, and I'm running for the Florida House of Representatives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick, and thank you everybody for your attendance. Before we start to melt in the landscape, I wanted to say just a few words, and certainly disperse after that. But I wanted again to thank Dick and Betsy DeVos for their home. I think I'm sorry for the Bostonians if we have any here, but there's a very important event going on this evening for Orlando. We have one NBA team left in the playoffs, and I think that's a pretty important venture. Also like to thank Nick and for the words of inspiration you just heard and passion. The reason why, number one, I look forward to not only co-chair this event, but get along into the campaign and help in any way I possibly could along those efforts. Also thank Mayor Giuliani for coming and certainly kicking off the event. It was certainly a wonderful experience for us. And it was 5 years ago, or certainly been in Florida many times since, but I remember it happening right here in the heart of Delray for George W. Bush and his safety campaign to run, and stood on the stage with my father and a few others to help encourage that campaign. So his selfishness and unselfishness is seen once again in helping other candidates in the GOP party as a whole. I am for that eternally grateful. But again, this campaign has just started. This is a fantastic, I don't know as a candidate you could start an event with something better than we have here tonight, and proud we have here tonight. This was more than an idea a little over a month ago, but certainly was official a little over a month ago. We have 16 months to go from this point on, and a lot of work needs to be done. We'll be pointing to a lot of people in this room afterwards to not only take this event, hopefully as an example of what we can do going forward as a fundraiser, and certainly talk to myself. John Scheer is here as well, along with the campaign. Anybody that you can speak with this evening, I'll be more than happy to host future events. We'll certainly need along the way. I know we've had a great track record in the district Nick is running for. Adam Hazard has done a tremendous job in the House, and it's certainly not a seat we can afford to lose. That I'm most passionate about, and certainly someone who Nick in his stature can take over and take over well in Tallahassee. Thank you very much for coming to see us.